Hello everybody, just want to let you know that I just finished reviewing the two documents that CAR sent over to us for our use regarding this COVID situation. And the first is a listing addendum or amendment, and the second is a document that is for anybody else who's going to access the property and the guidelines that are involved with that. So I'm going to run through them both with you right now, give you the ins and outs of what's in each of the documents and how we're going to be using them. And I've emailed a copy of them to you already. You should have already received that. So maybe you can print them out or you can look them on your screen while I'm running through them. So I'll run through the different paragraphs and what's contained in there and give you my take on the use of the document. Paragraph 1 refers to property showings. And basically the seller is either going to allow showings of the property based on certain criteria, or they're not going to allow showings to the property. And so that's where they identify that in the very first paragraph of the document. There are 3 questions that are contained in this paragraph as well, and 2 of them have check boxes. The first one basically is a question that is asking the buyer, the seller's granting access to the property based on either this one thing or all 3 of them. And the first question is, have they been sick? Okay, have they had a fever? Have they been sick? Or have they been around anybody that's been sick in the last 14 days? The second is that they have to agree that they will provide verification that they have the ability to buy the property. And the last one, which is also optional, is that they certify that they have seen the property online. So you're not taking people out to properties that they absolutely have no interest in. At least if they've looked at it online, they have some idea what they're going to be looking at. Paragraph 2 relates to post-acceptance and pre-sale activities, and there's a list of items or activities that the seller must agree to, and so there are check boxes for them to allow each of these things to happen. Things such as taking photographs, allowing for inspections, putting signage up, all the things that are necessary in order to complete a real estate transaction. They all need to be separately authorized by the seller, and there's a couple blank spots down below that you can add specific items if there's something that you believe that needs to be authorized by the seller. Paragraph 3 allows the broker to modify the marketing plan. So, for example, sometimes you provide with a listing agreement a marketing plan that says you're going to do an open house every other day or every 2 weeks or whatever it is, or you're going to run the advertisement in Homes and Land, over and over and over again. Well, we know that people aren't picking up Homes and Land magazines, and we know that you can't do open houses. So this would be a place in the addendum to allow you to, it would allow you to modify that marketing plan and put the seller on notice that those activities will not be being done. The document has 2 purposes. One is to allow showings, and the other is to pull the property off the market temporarily. So paragraph 4 is where the seller would designate that they want to temporarily pull the property off the market. So you would check that box. Also a second checkbox that if you check that, the time period that the property was off the market is automatically added to the listing agreement. So it extends that listing for a period of time. So let's say we're off for a month. If you have that box checked, then basically the listing agreement would extend automatically by the number of days that it was off the market. Paragraph 5 outlines the broker's scope of duty, and it's basically a disclosure that says, hey, we're going to do the best we can to comply with this, and we're going to try and have other parties, anyone else who's accessing the property, do the same, but we can't guarantee it. And there's also a hold harmless sentence in the very last sentence of that paragraph, basically indemnifying you and me in case something goes wrong or there's a situation that goes wrong as a result of the use of this addendum. Paragraph 6 allows for any additional items. If there's anything else that you'd like to add to the addendum, it's basically additional terms. I'd be careful about what you're putting in there. Obviously, you want to try and utilize the document as printed, but if there's something specific that you need to add to the addendum, then you're welcome to do that. And that's the end of the document. As I said at the very beginning of the video, the document has the ability to do 2 things. One, to allow for properties to be shown and getting specific instructions from the seller as to how that's going to happen and what activities are allowed. And second, it allows for the seller to temporarily pull a property off the market. So what we need to do immediately is any existing listings that we have, we need to check the box up top that says that it's an amendment to the existing listing agreement, and we need to have the sellers authorize the document and complete the document. You would complete the document with them, identifying the items that are necessary in order for us to close this transaction. Or you're going to go with the second option, which would allow them to temporarily pull the property off the market. And I would check the box on the temporary pull off the market one, just so that you have the ability to have it automatically extended for that time period that it was off the market. Okay, let's move on to the second document, which is the Property Entry Advisory and Declaration. And this is a document that we'll be using with everybody, the seller, anyone involved in the transaction, including inspectors, buyers, agents. Everyone must sign this document. Anyone who is going to access the property or be involved in the transaction where they are physically in the property or can be in the property must sign this document. First and foremost, by signing the document, they are acknowledging the risk. They're acknowledging that there could be a potential risk of them entering the property and contracting the virus. The document is also has language in it that explains to all the parties and anyone who signs it that that real estate is an essential activity per the federal government, and that we are helping to facilitate the transaction, but everybody needs to understand that they are doing this at their own risk. When the party signs a document, they're attesting to two things. The first thing they're attesting is that they are a party of the transaction. They're a seller or a buyer or an inspector, someone who's involved in the transaction. The second is that they're accessing the property voluntarily and that they are acting of their own free will. It goes on to say that the accessing of these properties could potentially be dangerous, and they're acknowledging the fact that they understand that. They are also acknowledging on the document that they understand that the stay-at-home order is in effect and that certain precautions must be taken, and that they agree to take those precautions when they're visiting a property. They certify that they have not been sick, they have not been ill, they have not been around anybody that has been ill or has been diagnosed with COVID for over the last 14 days. There's a statement in the document that also clearly states that the person signing the document believes that they cannot contract or will not contract the virus. They certify when they visit the property that they will use protective measures. They will wash their hands, they will use hand sanitizer, they will use gloves, they will use a mask, and they will use shoe protection or shoe coverings. They also agree to all of the social distancing guidelines, so they are certifying that they will practice social distancing while visiting the property. The document also states that sellers should, after the showing, sterilize the areas anywhere that was touched by anyone. They should go through and they should sterilize the property. Visitors are also told to discard any of the materials that they have, protective stuff, gloves, booties, anything like that that they utilized when they access the property. They're asked to discard those. The intent of the document is to get whoever is going to be visiting a property to acknowledge and certify that they are doing so of their own risk and that they understand the dangers of doing so. And so it allows protections for everybody involved in the transaction, giving them proper disclosure and notice as to what's going on and what are the safe practices that should be observed while showing properties. So just to recap, the document must and will be used with every single person that accesses a property. I don't care if it's an inspector, whoever the person is that is going to access the property must sign this document. If they don't agree to sign the document, then they're not permitted to access the property. The use of both of these documents will help you protect yourself and protect the people that you're working with. Please make sure that you utilize them and you review the information contained in the documents with the people that you're engaging with. If you have any questions or you have any concerns, you have anything that needs to be clarified, please do not hesitate to reach out to me and we'll work through it together. Thanks very much. Be safe out there.